Good morning. The Building Facilities Construction Committee meeting of Wednesday, February 19th, 2025 will now come to order at, what's the time up there on the wall? 10 o'clock. I'm sorry?
10:03.
10:03, thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm Shirley Mazinski, the chair.
Linda Brown.
Carol Gogolinsky.
Fred Fontaine.
Bob Wormy.
Okay, and Matt Wojcik is with us. Ray, I believe, was excused. He said he couldn't be with us. First item on the agenda, stormwater, the draft of the stormwater bylaw. So, and I'm sorry, Ray Benoit, Matt Benoit is on Zoom.
Oh, good.
Any comments on the stormwater bylaw?
I do.
Yeah, okay. Linda?
Okay. Now, on page 2 of 9, under B at the top, and this is
Page 2 of 9, under B.
under the purpose of this bylaw. It says, "Nothing in this bylaw is intended to replace requirements of town Douglas zoning bylaw or any other bylaw that may be adopted in the town of Douglas." And
So,
page 2, right at the top, B.
okay, yep.
So is this bylaw, we have an existing, let's see, municipal drain system, storm drain system bylaw already adopted at town meeting May of 2008, and it's under Conservation's authority. Is this replacing that?
Matt's up.
No, Madam Chair, no, it is not. The municipal storm drain bylaw is for illicit discharge only, but this would regulate stormwater management entirely. So two totally separate things. And we made sure to keep illicit discharge out of this bylaw so that the illicit discharge bylaw remains independent.
Okay, so that is, the existing bylaw for municipal storm drain system is going to remain in place under Conservation Commission.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and let's see, on page 3, let's see, under non-stormwater discharge, which is almost at the bottom of the page,
Yeah.
where it says things that are exempt, discharges that are exempt. One of them is dechlorinated swimming pool discharges, less than 1 part per million chlorine.
Yeah.
I'm sure the average homeowner doesn't even know what that is, but, so people can backflush their swimming pools right into the stormwater drains?
I think it says is provided the source is not a significant contributor of a pollutant. So I'm not saying folks can do that, but in the event that there is a collapse of an above-ground pool, they would not be subject to this.
So it doesn't, so it doesn't say how much, like it could be 50 gallons, it could be 500 gallons. It doesn't say that here at all.
Right. And this is just the definition. This is just defining what non-stormwater discharge is.
But this is under exemptions.
This is just in the
No,
definitions
that's
on page
definitions. That's the definition.
3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just a listed definition.
It says the following stormwater discharges are exempt from this definition.
Well, that's because they're defining what non-stormwater discharge is.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I do have a question. Who's going to be monitoring this?
Well, it was under planning board, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you have a leaky swimming pool, you think the homeowner is going to be calling?
Well, it's not that it leaks, that's not what I'm concerned about. I used to have an above-ground swimming pool, 8-foot round, and it had a sand filter.
Yeah.
And in order to, I had to backflush that sand filter, but it was hundreds of feet away from any wetland. It just pretty much watered the lawn is what it did.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've got to add chemicals because you've got this green algae,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm worried that
Understand.
people backflush their green swimming pools with all these chemicals. So, but this is
Bylaw.
not, I don't know. how
They're
to
saying
interpret
as
it.
far as monitoring it, the planning board or their agent. So I mean, who monitors everything? Do we have?
Well,
you
the
know,
zoning enforcement officer monitors some stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, do you have people running around all day looking around to see what everybody's doing? No.
Well,
Right.
somebody might say, hey, my neighbor's just
Right, well,
backflushed
there's-
500 gallons right into the
Well, there's
river.
thing, and then they'd call
Yeah.
and something would be taken care of.
Or would that be under the other bylaw?
That depends on where they're discharging. If they're discharging into the storm system,
Okay,
it could be considered an illicit discharge.
Okay.
all right.
It's gonna vary depending on the type of discharge that it is. If someone's changing the oil in their garage and it's leaking down the driveway and ending up in the storm drain, that's definitely an illicit discharge.
Okay, all right. Page 5, letter B.
Can I, Madam Chair, can
yeah,
I
sure. Yeah.
stop Linda's train of thought? Because I want to ask Matt a question about the
Sure.
very same thing. This is the problem with having me read things, Matt.
My problem, too.
On the same clause, so this is page 3, non-stormwater discharge definition. You have two clauses. One says foundation or footing drains. And the second one says, at the end of the paragraph, rising groundwater, including uncontaminated, infiltrated, or pumped groundwater, and others with approval. I guess when I read that, I'm a little bit concerned. I think the second one is what we don't want to bother people with. So if I have a curtain drain around my foundation, and I have a high water table, that's infiltrated, rising groundwater,
Right,
and it's not stormwater discharge.
right.
But to take a broad brush and say foundation or footing drains, it's entirely possible that you have a massive stormwater discharge from that, because now the stormwater has flowed to my foundation, gone into my foundation drain, and is now just found another path to
Right.
get to wherever it is that we don't want it to go. Is that, did the committee, is this from the Uxbridge kind of cut and paste, or did the committee talk about this?
I think it probably a little bit of both. I mean, any water that's coming up from a foundation drain is probably pretty clean water, because it's just groundwater. From the other point of view, too, is if we want to get this thing through, if people start to think for a minute that we're going to make them stop their foundation drains, you're never going to see this thing pass. And even if they're not on the area right now that's thing, they're not going to understand that. So I think, you're talking about,
But if people are confused at town meeting,
yeah. It'll-
don't get them started.
Exactly, exactly.
That's what somebody just, like Matt just brought up that
You're right,
question, and
right.
I brought up the pool, and then I'm told, well, it's just a definition.
Right.
What, that tells me what?
So the
You
point
know?
of this bylaw is to regulate growth and construction of disturbance of over 1 acre.
Right.
And anything that pre-exists to this is just gonna have to follow the illicit discharge bylaw.
So why
for
are
exist-
swimming
construction.
pools in here, is my,
Sorry?
why are swimming pools even in this definition?
If someone was disturbing an acre of land and needed to put in their swimming pool, that might be part of the disturbance.
Well, this is talking about discharges, not
Right.
disturbance.
Right. Well,
Right, so if they're
Well,
under the
that-
stormwater permit and they have a discharge, this is assuming it's a new development, they put in their pool, and they're under a stormwater permit and they're discharging, that could be grounds for enforcement. That's my understanding.
So this has nothing to do with somebody's got their lot, they've cleared, they've been living there for 2 years.
No.
This has nothing, the swimming pool doesn't matter then?
Right. If that's flagged by a neighbor or someone catches that and it's discharging right into the storm drain of the town infrastructure, they could be flagged for illicit discharge and have to go to the conservation.
Okay.
So Matt, do you think that clarifies this?
No, I think we just will have a little bit longer conversation. There are folks who think, and I'm not going to dispute them. I know one builder who builds very environmentally conscious homes, does not put gutters on them. He surrounds the house with a gravel curtain drain. So when the stormwater hits and it flows and it just goes down along the sides of the foundation and it infiltrates back into the land. So basically, he's managing his stormwater on site
Right.
by not putting in gutters, focusing the water and sending it down the driveway over pavement into the street. But I've also seen situations where you build a big house on a small lot,
Yeah.
and now you've got all that impervious surface, and now you're capturing all the water into your foundation drain. All it is just another way of, you're not necessarily infiltrating it. Where does the pipe go, if there's a pipe? And I,
It
as
has to
town
go to a
administrator in
positive
another
outflow,
town,
yeah.
I had situations where people had a curtain drain, they took the water into a 3-inch pipe, dumped it onto the public way,
Yeah,
and we had, talk about ice.
oh, right, oh,
The
I
ice was
agree.
a foot thick.
I agree with you there.
And we had no basis for addressing them until they formed ice.
Yeah.
And once it formed ice, it was a public safety problem.
Right.
We dealt with it that way, with tickets. But all the rest of the year, whenever water flowed out of that, there was no way to tell them not to do it. So it was kind of like a silly situation. We couldn't tell them not to do it.
Yeah.
They had to wait until they actually created a hazard that somebody complained about before we could reach out to them. So I don't want to stop the meeting on this point. I'm just going to flag it as something that we can discuss further, maybe at the Concom hearing, or give ourselves some time to think about it.
Okay,
It goes either way.
yeah.
Right.
All right, sorry.
So-
Sorry, Linda.
Okay, on page,
Wait, just a minute. So Matt Benoit, do you have any comments regarding that?
No, I agree with Mr. Wojcik. We'll look more into it and follow up with the appropriate boards and committees.
Okay.
all right.
Anybody else, questions?
I do, I haven't.
Yeah, just
For my
on
list.
that
We should have had you on
particular.
our committee.
I don't think I'd be allowed.
Oh, yes, we would have loved to have had you.
So
That's my
before-
opinion.
Before we move on from that,
Okay,
anybody comments?
okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Page 5.
Yeah.
B, stormwater regulations. Now, I know these are regulations after this passes town meeting. Somebody's going to look into these. So is planning board planning on doing these right away so that they have fees, and if somebody has to file, there have to be fees? Is this something that's going to be started right away? I know some boards don't even work on the regulations until like years later.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know if the planning board is going to get right on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the select board meeting last night, Carol brought up that we should use that committee to do the regulations. So I just put on their next agenda to form a subcommittee using those members from the stakeholder committee to do the regulations. And the regulations were something they've already started working on a little bit while they were doing the bylaw. So I think we've got the crux of it put together. We just need to fine tune it. So the planning board will set up that committee at their meeting next week, and we'll get started on it right away.
Okay?
Now, that's if the planning board is the legal authority?
Right.
Well, it says administration towards the,
Which to me is,
it says planning board.
you've got conservation doing one part, Are they going to stay on that?
They're not, that's a whole different bylaw.
Yeah, and that to me is why.
Why what?
Why the conservation on one bylaw?
Because it's totally different. This is only for certain areas.
Yeah,
This
this sounds-
bylaw,
Yeah.
It's when, when they come up to, when they, if, basically, if it's over an acre, they have to have
Yeah.
stormwater. If, I think if it's over like 6 lots, they end up with stormwater, having to do stormwater stuff. So a lot of that is going to go through the planning board anyway.
and this is only for those red highlighted areas, not the whole town.
Right.
Conservation has authority over.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, procedures on page 7, the first paragraph under procedures. I think this probably should be part of the regulations, because it says, like the second sentence, a public hearing is required, a notice shall be given by publication in a newspaper, general circulation. Who's going to bear that cost? Because it doesn't say here. Is that going to be spelled out in the regulations?
Yes,
Sure.
so this language was added by town council,
Okay.
and the regulations would fine tune that process.
Okay, and that also includes, because I think some boards in this town make the applicant do it, and then
Yes.
some boards, they do it themselves and then make the applicant pay for it.
Right.
But no matter what, the applicant's paying.
Right.
You hope. I would think it would be, the applicant pays, not that the town gets reimbursed from the applicant, because that, who knows how long that can take. But if somebody wants to do this and get this permit, I think they're responsible for putting the ad in the paper and doing the certified mailings, all
So
that.
I don't think this one's going to have certifieds. This will be more like planning board procedure, where the planning board would include in a $200 advertising fee. Because this way, we're not relying on the applicants to send the ad in,
Oh.
which we have to do with conservation, which is kind of a nightmare, logistically anyway, because sometimes they don't do it, and we have to push the hearings back. It's just chasing folks down to get their ads in and pay the telegram. So instead with planning board, we set up an advertising fee for $200, and we use that money towards the advertising and the publication, and the abutters notices, and all that stuff.
So there's no chasing the applicant
Exactly.
for money by
Right.
the planning board to cover these fees? They just, it's not
They
a
submit
hassle?
with their application.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
All right.
Anybody have any comments on that? Okay, go ahead.
And at the bottom of the page, very last sentence, where it starts with, or unless 90 days lapse. This is, once a public hearing is started, and the planning board has 90 days to take action.
Right.
So what is action? Is that because action is not defined in the definitions, is that the decision, the non-decision?
That's to make a vote. And then in the regulations, there will be language in there to say when the planning board has to produce their decision. It's usually within 45 days of the vote, of the public hearing. So it's 90 days to take action, and that's to vote on the project.
Because it does say, or unless 90 days lapse, because I remember one time there was
Right.
a gravel
If it
removal.
lapses, they get constructive approval.
Yeah, that's what happened with the gravel pit one time, and it was like one day late. The
Oh.
planning board had
Not done,
not
taken any action.
done the decision,
Yeah.
and they got it by construction approval. In other words, there were no laws governing anything, and that was our bad. Okay. But I think the word with action should be without, let's see,
Without
Excuse
a
me.
vote?
Could you ask Matt if it was also put in by our town council?
Yes, this was vetted by council. This language
Yeah.
is town council language.
but I'm looking at the average person. Oh, what's action mean? Is it the decision? Is it discussion? Is it just holding the public hearing?
Good point.
You know?
Yep.
Action could mean a lot of things. I would think it would need to be the decision.
May I say something?
Yes. Carol?
With the paperwork and everything that's going to have to come in on one of these permits, it's not your average person. It's not somebody, your homeowner
No,
that's going over
the
there.
homeowners are going to have to fill these
Carol,
out too.
finish. Yeah.
Unless if they're disturbing an acre of land. What
Yes.
homeowner is disturbing an acre of land?
Some people want a lawn that big.
Well, it's going to be.
An acre isn't very, I
Well, the
own
other
an
thing-
acre, and I mow it.
Yeah,
It's all clear.
well, I don't think the chances of that happening is going to be pretty slim. I think if the town council put this down, I think we're probably pretty well with it.
Well, I wish some
I don't
luck.
want to, I mean, not that I think that the lawyers are always,
It's just one word, you know,
But I think that,
it's up to interpretation.
you know, we had town council actually there last night in his wool suit. He looked very good, keeping warm. And, I mean, I think he knows what he's doing. So it wasn't something we
Okay.
came up with. It was town council that we pay a nice little tidy sum to rely upon.
And then the map,
Yep.
I can continue on.
So
Or-
anybody, anything else, anywhere?
I just think that maybe him being a lawyer, using that word, is probably a generally, that it's already defined and generally understood. I don't know that to be the case, but it might be worth asking.
So Matt Benoit,
Clear?
you heard Fred.
Yep.
Could you check with him regarding that?
Yes, ma'am.
Matt, any comments?
Yeah, I got one more question.
Sure.
I am on page 6,
Yeah.
section 5, applicability, subsection B6. Now, bearing in mind that the
Say that
applicability,
again, please.
so I'm on page 6,
Yeah,
section 5,
yeah,
subsection B, as
Yeah,
in
okay.
bear, 6.
yeah,
On
should I
what
say?
page are we on?
6,
Page 6.
yeah.
under exemption.
Now, bearing in mind that this is a small area of the town that's covered, right?
Yeah,
But I think we have a little bit of a conundrum. Prior to, I'm reading what the proposal says. Prior to land disturbance activities, persons constructing single-family dwellings are strongly encouraged to consult with the town superintendent of the highway department about actions to reduce stormwater impacts during and after construction.
yeah,
It is also recommended that individuals constructing single-family dwellings prepare and grade lots in such a manner that development of the lot does not cause detrimental drainage onto another lot or onto streets or ways, either during construction or upon completion thereof. First of all, it's just a snotty-nosed drafting convention that I got into the bad habit of at law school. I hate recommendations. We don't write bylaws to recommend anything to anyone. Either do it or don't do it. And we all have our own philosophies. My preference is not to regulate. So, but here we have in section 12 of the general bylaws of the town of Douglas, driveway permits.
yeah.
And the highway superintendent's authority is limited to the public's safety on the road. So there's section 2, before issuing a driveway permit, the superintendent must have findings that there will be no buildup of water and ice on the road. So that's not optional, and there's a fine for that. And it's enforceable by either the building commissioner or the highway superintendent. So I would strongly urge the committee to strike, when it comes to the select board, I'm going to say that they should strike a large portion of this. First of all, I don't want to open the door to anyone asking the highway superintendent to come onto their private property to have a discussion with them about the runoff of water onto someone else's lot. We have this complaint all the time. That is a private matter. So if someone builds a house next to me and dumps all their water on my house, I shouldn't be calling Adam Furno to get the town sucked into that dispute. That's a dispute between neighbor A and neighbor B, and there are rules in Massachusetts about that. All we ever care about is the new house, call it neighbor A,
Yeah.
taking all their water and putting it into the public way, whether we have drains there or not. If we don't have drains, they're destroying our road.
All right.
And there's no planning board jurisdiction because the way this is written, it's pretty much an A&R lot or a,
Yeah.
so there is no oversight here at all except for the driveway permit.
I mean, frankly, this whole 6 could be eliminated because they're not even talking about areas that are required under the under the stormwater bylaw. They're not even, they're saying where approval is not required. So
This is your-
basically, number 6 could just be thrown out altogether.
But this is your committee. You were on that committee.
No, but I guess it's actually a factual question. Is
Yeah.
it, so approval is not required is a term of art in our friends in the planning department
Right.
in A&R.
Right.
So if I do an A&R in one of these shaded red
Yeah.
sections.
Right.
The draft says, I'm exempt from stormwater considerations. And all of the language dealing with the highway superintendent is very soft, recommending stuff. When we have an existing bylaw that says it's not soft, recommending at
Right,
all.
exactly.
The superintendent's only jurisdiction is
Right.
water coming onto the public
Right.
way. And I don't want there to be any doubt as to the superintendent's right to enforce that.
Right. Right.
So the A&R is not really exempt from the driveway permit requirement,
Right.
but the superintendent shouldn't be invited onto somebody's private property on an A&R.
I think I agree with you. I think number 6 should be struck in its entirety.
So,
I don't think there's
if you
a
look at the
need for it.
screen, I've eliminated the second half of that, but kept the A&R because it says unless land disturbance activities exceed 1 acre.
Okay.
And then I stopped it right there.
And then get rid
crossed
of
off.
prior land disturbance and all the rest of that stuff, just dump it, right?
Right.
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's just wishful thinking.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because in regard, as
Right,
a
we don't wanna
comment
put a-
myself, on my street,
Yeah.
I've seen this happen, where a new home is built, and before you know it, all this water is coming down the driveway and into the road.
Right,
And then cleaning the driveways, they're pushing all this, like, winter stuff across the street onto somebody else's land. Happens to mine.
But you're not in the red
Yeah,
shaded.
I know, and that disturbs me after what's happened this past 2 years.
That's where I was getting to the map.
Go ahead.
well,
Anybody else?
Why? I mean, it's almost like discrimination.
Those were my words.
Oh,
Well, my,
go ahead, Linda. Thank you, Matt. Both
let's
Matts.
see.
Yeah.
So why does this plan not include all subdivisions with catch basins? Because you've got, like, Deer Crossing and Shady Knoll in South Douglas.
I think they're on it.
Why are they
They are.
They're on it.
picked on? But what about all the other subdivisions? It's like Deer Crossing and Shady Knoll, they're built out. So why are they even highlighted? Why pick on them, in other words? Like, there are other subdivisions, like Stone Gate up on Franklin Street, Tucker Landing off of Linden. There are so many other larger, not larger than Deer Crossing, but large subdivisions that have storm drains that are town roads.
We went by what the federal government is requiring.
So they required
This is
just
what
Deer
we're doing.
Crossing? That's what I want to
We're
know,
going-
why they
yeah,
were
we're going by-
singled out.
Adam was involved with this, and he's been, working with the people from the federal government and everything, and this is what's required by the federal government. So this
It
is what's-
specifically said Deer Crossing. That's why I want to know.
Well, I don't know if it used the word, but,
Why
but that's
those two
why.
subdivisions only? We have
Well,
many in the town of
Evidently,
Douglas.
the federal government has not decided that they have to be in it yet. And if they do, then we'll
But
have
we're
to-
making it so.
No.
Does it have
These
anything
two.
to do with where the water discharges to?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Why Deer Crossing and
Does the
Shady
water
Knoll?
make it to the Mumford as part of our
Mapinoid?
permit?
They're not even near the Mumford.
Discharges into waterways of the U.S. is the definition.
Where's the
So,
waterway that
if you
Deer
look- If
Crossing?
you look on the screen, this is the EPA map from the 2010 census. As you can see, it includes Deer Crossing here and some larger areas. But our consultant refined it so that it's a much more focused area based on contour elevation and where it discharges into waterways of the U.S.
So
Much
what was
larger
the-
area before.
What was the previous map? What's that green area called again?
The green is the state forest.
Oh, so
It's just the red.
what, yeah, I can't really, the lights are
This is
shining
the
on.
hatched area here.
Well, what makes Deer Crossing so special?
I don't know. I don't work for the EPA, but they flagged this as one of the areas
Areas of what again?
of stormwater that discharges into the waterways of the U.S.
I
They,
So if that stormwater is collected and it makes its way down to those, to that stream, and that stream empties into the Mumford as part of the Mumford drainage,
No,
It does.
not Deer
It
Crossing.
goes to
Think of Tinkerbell.
Chocolaw Brook, and then it goes down, all the way down into
Deer Crossing?
Providence.
Yeah.
It goes into
Well, that might be
Narragansett
more
Bay.
to Round Top.
down to Round for
is it a different
Tinkerbell.
watershed?
That's not even, it's,
Yeah, my question is, how many watersheds are affected?
Well, we went by what the federal government gave us, okay? Now, from the other
Right.
point of view, you've been trying to get this thing in for 20 years. It
It's just
hasn't
that-
gone through yet, because people do not want you regulating all their own property.
That's
So
right.
if you
So-
want to see it
yeah.
hit down again, well, then go try and put it on the whole town
I'm
again.
just concerned that the Deer Crossing people who are pretty upset about their water issues and all that, that they're going
Right.
to be coming to town meeting, saying, why are we being picked on? There's a lot.
But they're not. Those houses are already developed. This is only for like new development for disturbances over an acre. All these houses are already developed. Unless there's a lot that hasn't been built on yet, then they might have to apply for a stormwater permit. But the rest of them are all pre-existing non-conforming, or pre-existing conforming with
So
their
if
stormwater
they're,
standards.
well, I know that they're definitely 2 acres or more, so if
Yeah.
they want to cut an additional acre of, say they're on 2 acres, half of that, they've only got a half an acre cleared for their house and mowing a little bit of lawn. Well, they want to clear cut and have a horse on the rest of the acre, which they have. They don't have to file for this permit, even though they're grubbing and disturbing more than an acre of land on their existing.
What I'm going to say is something that our consultant told us. It's like the whole purpose of this bylaw is to go after the large-scale developers. It's to go after large-scale development, commercial, industrial. It's not necessarily to pick on Joe Homeowner.
Okay, just bringing up the topics that might be brought up at town meeting. All right. Why doesn't this plan depict the whole town of Douglas? I mean, my house isn't even on this map. Is that just,
Because there are no
Because-
regulated areas
Not
outside.
in
Okay.
a regulated area.
Right.
all right.
Would you like to be regulated? We could put,
No, I'm just, I thought the whole town of Douglas
You're
would
good.
be shown. What do the squares mean? On this map, it says like D1, D2, and F3. What do those captions
Oh, those are
mean?
tiles. So there's smaller printouts for each of the tiles that are available. So they zoomed in sections of the maps.
I see. Okay. So this isn't just for town drainage systems, it just pertains to the 1 acre areas.
Yes.
Okay. Because I know that, like you said, Oak Street, I mean, has some drains on it that go right into Manchog Pond, correct?
They
Shirley?
also go into a cold water fishery.
Yeah, so
whether
that's
you
a
believe it or-
discharge into a fisher,
Whether you believe it or not, because it's closer to the Northwest Main Street, and there's a beautiful cold water fishery on my property.
Where's Northwest Main Street?
where
Goes
Shirley,
up to Whittier's.
Okay, yep.
by that
Okay.
area.
So, because they came and they checked it out.
Yeah.
As to whether it was a viable, so forth and so on, cold water fishery. And it is. They haven't, we asked for a report, but we haven't got it yet. It's out of Westboro. They-
My question was, because you had mentioned discharge into waters of the United States, because those pipes discharge into waters of the United States, which would be Manchog Pond.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
not
Manchog Pond then
Isn't on this map.
discharges down,
to the Mumford.
yeah, all the way
Yeah.
to the Mumford.
I'm just
Stevens Pond, Stevens
wondering-
Pond into Mumford, Mumforded to Blackstone. Yeah.
Why it was pick and choose, but you said it was EPA, so that's all, let's see, I think. Yes, that's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Anybody
Yeah.
else here to offer? So I'm under the impression that this will be followed up, the questions, and, with this bylaw, with whoever else it goes before, and has Conservation had any input on this? Matt?
They have had a chance to review it. They haven't provided much comment. They were waiting for their chairman to attend the meeting, so he'll be there on the March 3rd meeting.
March 3rd, okay.
I have another question. Does this still need to go back to the selectmen after conservation and the?
Yeah, the select board need to hold a public hearing.
Okay.
Good, okay. Very good. All right,
So that's procedurally, just, I know people know this, but I'm going to summarize it so it's clear for the note taker.
yep,
The Select Board accepted the report of the Stormwater Subcommittee last night, which was a subcommittee of the Select Board.
yep,
And they're waiting now for feedback. We'll take the minutes of this meeting and any conversation at Conservation and put them into the packet for the Select Board as part of the public hearing. I don't think we'll actually put that input into the public hearing record for the Select Board. And they can have a conversation about what exactly they want to appear on the warrant. But then we're not there yet. We've got weeks to go.
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to the highway building project. And either or both Matts, any comments, input that we should know about before we get?
Updates?
Yeah, updates.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I want to keep your meeting moving along, so
Yes.
I'll cut to the chase. I'm increasingly doubtful that this proposal will be ready for Springtown meeting. And I'm not entirely disappointed by that. First of all, I'm not going to rush anything through for the sake of hitting a deadline. This is a very important project. I'd rather have it fully vetted and all the research done. And I think it's a big enough project in the life of the town where having a special town meeting may not be the end of the universe, bearing in mind that this will have to borrow to do the project, and we cannot borrow without a ballot question. So there's going to be a lot of transparency. Before we get to the point where we ask people to vote on it, we want it to be thoroughly vetted. Mixing it all in with the rest of the business of Springtown meeting may not actually be the best result. Because people care a lot about the issue, may sit there and wait for us to grind through the budget. And Mr. Benoit threatens to have 11 articles on this warrant street acceptances and a whole bunch of other technical business that town meeting has to do. We can't do it on the select board's authority. So it might be better to package this thing for a later date, prior to November, but after May. So that's kind of where I think we're headed, for a few reasons, a couple of reasons. We got a quote from the dam safety inspectors. It's a very manageable number. This morning, I approached the landowner for the mechanism for paying for that. I reinforced the point that the landowner is going to pay for this
Right.
inspection.
Yep.
So they're either going to pay for it out of cash, or
Yep.
they'll, at closing, we would do it. The dam inspection firm, thinks they have plenty of manpower and a schedule to do this very quickly, but obviously we want to see some of the spring runoff. I don't know when the best time to do the inspection is, when we're full of water and when we're not full of water. Maybe when we're full of water might be the best time. So there's that, and then there's a very good meeting that we had with the designers. I don't like to, I'm all for transparency and getting everybody involved early, but when people are just spitballing, I think it's a waste of everybody's time. So we had a meeting where we were spitballing, and they had some 5 different proposals for how to configure the building using the existing house. And first of all, technically, it's feasible within the building envelope of the lot to get the building that we think we want with the existing house. We're going back and forth about the existing house because the architects have defaulted to a very risk-averse position, which is that if you're going to change the use of the house, you have to do 1,000,001 things to it for accessibility, and all of that would be done at prevailing wage, yada, yada, yada. Our building commissioner does not agree. So now I've got the building commissioner saying it doesn't necessarily have to be fully updated, and the architect saying it does have to be. There is actually a state agency whose job it is to tell you the answer. Not all spaces in a public building are public. And so drawing, where you're going to draw that line is pretty important. The existing home has a whole floor that's completely accessible.
Right, the first, yeah,
And if we had to widen some doorways and do some things, we could do that.
all right.
The question is, if the public were never to be allowed up on the second floor, which is basically a kitchen
Right.
and a meeting space, could we build it that way and just leave it and not do all of this, have a lift and all this other
Yeah,
stuff?
exactly.
That starts to get really expensive. The idea of buying the house and taking the additional cost into the appraisal was to be able to utilize the structure fully and reprogram space. So instead of building space in the new highway barn for break room and for meeting space, we would eliminate that square footage and use the existing house for it as a way to save money. If we had to do all those repairs to the house, the cost would actually exceed the cost of the per square foot to build out a break room, which was never the idea. So we basically rejected that concept. So I'm going to reach out to the Massachusetts office and make sure that we're fully compliant with code and civil rights thought process, but I don't think we need to fully improve the house at all. We have spaces, for instance, in this town hall, where someone who was restricted to a wheelchair would not be able to visit. You would not be able to go down to the furnace room, and we know the furnace room, it's on your agenda today, the furnace room is a source of some agita, using my Rhode Island terms there, some agita's a heart pain. If we had someone on this board
Yeah.
that was in a wheelchair and wanted to be able to see, we would have a live stream on the camera. We would show people, a person could ask questions. What's that thing? Is it loose? Grab it, shake it. You could accommodate a lot of the investigatory requirements without actually having to open all the doors downstairs and have a way to get somebody down there. I think we're kind of in the same situation here. We don't necessarily need someone to be able to have access to a break room. It's a break room.
Right.
I have a question.
What was that?
Sure.
Hi. Thanks. Is this a historical building that's being updated, or is it just like a regular residential building from the 20th century?
Who is this?
It's a,
My name is Marcy LeBlanc. I'm on Southwest Main.
Thank you.
sorry about that, Bob. I just attacked you with a paper clip.
Sorry.
It's like it's a fidget for me. So the answer is that building, that house was,
90s.
I don't know the
Maybe
vintage.
20
It's
years
the
old.
90s, it's about 20
20 or
years old.
30 years
Yeah.
old.
It's
That's
not
about it.
historic.
It's not historical
No.
whatsoever.
What is it being repurposed for?
So in a highway barn, we would normally have like a conference room table where the people who work there could have their lunch, sort of a break room type arrangement, and also go over plans. So if they're going to have a map of the town, and this is how we're going to attack a snowstorm, or this is where the work assignments are today, they would have that meeting in that space.
Offices.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the reason why it would be important for that space to be accessible is because it's setting a precedent that people who might need assistance with stairs either have full mobility or partial mobility. It's saying that these spaces can be accessed by staff, and those people are welcome to be employed. So that is why it is important. I know it's expensive, but it's basically saying, well, I know that, you might have an issue or someone might break a leg. They might not normally need to, need assistance. But it's saying that these people can't access work areas that would normally be accessible by other people who are working there, not just members of the public.
Nobody can work for the highway department unless they're physically capable and they pass a fitness for duty test, which includes.
If they break a leg or something, or if, they're.
If they're unable to work for the town, they need to be on leave or do light duty.
Okay, what is the fitness test?
The physical fitness requirements for a highway worker and the job descriptions.
Okay, is that on the town website?
I'm not sure, but I can get them to you.
Okay, great. Matt has my contact information. I'd be happy to have a look. I just want to make sure that our spaces are equitable for all people who are visiting. What if someone wanted to bring a bunch of lasagna or something, or a speaker were to come to give a class about more efficient ways of operating. It makes sense to make these spaces accessible for everybody.
No, it makes sense to use accessible space in the main building for those kinds of functions. So you'll find I don't take templates and blindly apply them to buildings. The question is, what is the need? So if the need is for a space where someone could give a talk, then we would make space available in the main garage building without having to completely rehab a house.
So thank you for your interest and questions. We're just, the Building and Facilities Committee is going through updates with the town administrator, and we want to know where this project is and how it's progressing and other areas that we've been working on, and glad to hear of your
It sounded
interest.
like we were going to talk to someone from the state level anyway, so
Yeah.
what I said doesn't even matter, so.
No, it does.
Yeah.
It's good to know that local residents care, but I'm assuring you that I'm going to reach out to the people who have the authority to make the decisions. But when you go to their website, they make it clear in their website, in their discussion, that not every space has to meet all the requirements. And that is the conversation I'm going to have with them. Because if it becomes too expensive to fix up the house,
Right.
then I'll tear the house down and it will cost more to do the project.
Understood.
Our due diligence here is to try to provide the taxpayer with a solution to the issue without unnecessary expense. So at present, our highway workers have a break room that is in the boiler room. So they sit alongside a fuel tank and a furnace to take their lunch in a space that no one with any kind of accessibility issues would ever be able to get to, ever, under any circumstances. So it's unhealthy for our people who work there, and it's
Absolutely.
inaccessible for anyone, including just regular members of the public when we have a small disability. So, we're making a huge improvement to people's situation here, and that's our focus, is to get the heck out of that existing building, which is completely and totally unsafe for all of our highway workers. To that end, one of the issues that we have here is we have some covered space, so just completely, almost like a pole barn type, three-sided space where we're going to park stuff that is not sensitive to weather conditions. And we can plug and play that. That can move around the site. It doesn't need to be in the way. The location of the washroom is particularly important for us because this is, again, one of the reasons why we are asking for a new highway barn is to maintain our equipment. So get all the salt off everything and get everything under a roof so that it's not exposed.
Yep.
Some things that have hydraulic lines, rubber lines, we want that stuff to be completely inside. Things that are less sensitive, tag-along trailers, all that stuff can be stuck under a roof so it doesn't rust. That's so we have like 3 or 4 footprints that we're sliding around the map to make sure it all fits. I think we've made it abundantly clear to the designer that they have to sharpen their pencil and get a pretty good cost estimate for water service in the crossings of the wetlands before we'll proceed
Yeah.
with this. Because again, I think Weston and Sampson, God bless their souls, they have the tendency to look at really expensive solutions and, really big plans. And I think Adam and I and Mike Fitzpatrick have pushed back and said the crossing doesn't need to be wide enough for 2 really massive vehicles to pass,
Right.
right?
You could stop.
You can stop on either side, and so I think we need to give common sense a little bit of a longer leash here on the structure, but I think we've made huge progress from where we were 6 months ago with this.
Okay.
So we're continuing to move the ball forward. I'm confident that by the time we ask the voters to vote on it, we'll have a
Yep.
well-thought-out plan.
Right. Okay.
That's all I have for 2.
I have a couple of questions
Fred,
for Matt. Who's with the state are you checking with? What department?
I know the acronym. It's the Mobility and Accessibility Office. They're specifically tasked with
So they would know.
public building. Yeah.
I'm also
No,
curious.
we can rely upon their findings.
Okay. So going along with
Yeah.
that, does the highway department have a clerk that may or may not have to pass a physical fitness requirement?
We have a clerk. The position right now, I don't know what the job description says. I'd rather say I don't know than speculate.
So theoretically, there could be somebody in a wheelchair that's working as a clerk someday.
Yeah.
I'm
But
sure.
even then, you could still use that lower level.
The first floor, yeah.
Probably the
Yeah.
only, is there a bathroom on the lower level? Probably
There
make
is.
a
Yeah.
handicap accessible bathroom on the lower level,
yeah.
which, that's what, 8 by 8, and that's it. That's all
There
you need.
Might need a wider door, that's about it.
Wider door and
And a little wider, some
Hand-
handrails and stuff to make it, I mean, all of the buildings that I've built, we've had to put handicap accessible bathrooms. We've never had a handicapped person, but we do have them all there, but they're not that expensive.
Okay,
You know.
thank you.
Fred, you're satisfied with that answer?
Yeah, so the bathrooms are an issue, though. So the bathroom on the first floor is the one that is very easily made accessible. The one on the second floor is
Yeah.
your traditional
Yeah,
I don't want to call it a lavette, because I think there is a shower in there,
Yep.
but it's very small, very
Right.
cramped.
Right.
So if we had to redo that, at that point, we're starting to get into
Right.
structural issues with bearing walls, and we're all set, we're all done.
Linda, you had a question?
So we're looking at, you said, going prior to fall meeting, so it would be a special, or, oh,
Yeah. You know, unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, we don't have a general election in November this year,
Right.
right? So we have neither a governor nor a president to elect. So in an ideal world, we would put such a big issue on a ballot with other elections,
Okay.
because then people wouldn't say, well, you snuck it through. I hate that. It's like we advertise the bejesus out of an election. If it's a special election for local issues only, people who care about local issues vote. People who don't. So I've never been sympathetic to that argument, although for efficiency's sake, for the town clerk, it is better to have, you know, whether it's a primary or a general election, or even a local select board election, with local questions on it, because then you're just administering one election. But I'm not going to let that get in the way of progress. Like, that's the ideal. The ideal won't stop the good.
so it wouldn't be a ballot question. I'm not talking about ballot question, I'm talking about a special town meeting.
Special town meeting, but
Okay.
I'm trying to schedule a special town meeting, because if you're going to do a debt exclusion
Yeah,
at a town meeting, there is a time frame
Yeah.
after which the election must be held for the authorization to exclude the debt. That is a ballot
because you have to
question.
have a ballot on that one.
Yeah.
And I think it's either 60 or 90 days. We did this with BVT.
Yes.
So Springtown meeting voted a debt exclusion for their roof project at BVT, and we had a very small local election. I think maybe 300 people voted, and it passed by one vote.
I forgot to go.
I did too, and I'm on finance. I didn't even realize they were having it, so shame on me.
Uh-oh.
Like I said, we did the best we could to make
I
people
think
aware
maybe-
of it.
You know what, maybe we have to put the banners across the main street on some of these things.
Okay.
I mean, we could have fireworks, and people still would say they didn't.
But I mean, it wouldn't hurt.
Any other questions on this? And we'll move on. You good? We're getting input. Thank you. So we will continue to get input on that. Recommendations to the Board of Selectmen regarding restrictions to place on the sale of the old grammar school at 11 Gleason Court.
You folks already did this.
Yeah.
I incorporated your minutes into the draft RFP, which I don't have for you today because I'm still adding some other considerations. So we have disclosures, mandatory disclosures for asbestos and lead. Our disclosure on asbestos is we think we removed it all. I think we have paperwork to support that. Lead paint will be disclosed as existing everywhere in the building. They'll just
Yeah.
have to make their changes there. So I've got to get that ready for the select board. It's just,
Ongoing.
Yeah, I think-
So you're trying to get this out?
yeah, so
as-
this is on the list of my goals for this calendar year with the select board, is to complete this project.
Right. And I think one of the things that we'd agreed upon is just want to keep the look of the building.
Right, the appearance,
The appearance.
the windows.
But they don't have to go with wooden windows, you can get into windows, it's going to cost $10,000 a window or something when there's no need of it, as long as you can keep the look. Who's going to go up there and feel it? Nobody,
10,000 is cheap.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I think I told you the story last time when we did the windows above the marquee on the Stadium Theater in Woonsocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to be, the pulley system,
Oh,
completely restored
Yeah,
in their original condition.
wow.
It's nuts. You don't even open those windows because it's not safe.
Yeah, right.
But we had to restore them to the
Yeah.
original mechanisms, and they were way more than
Yeah.
$10,000.
So,
Each,
Yeah.
anybody
spent over
have any other
$150,000.
comments as to what, or any thought of anything else that they'd like to see?
Yeah, just leave it open, because if there's anything else you think of.
how are we going with finally getting that thing up to go for sale? I mean, how long are we looking out before we can put it, I know you have to auction it, or you have to do something, you have to do an RFP, or you can't just,
Well, that's what we,
So
Right.
town meeting already voted all that. So the
Okay.
select board will now follow the Chapter 30B,
Oh.
Section 16 process.
okay,
So I've already spoken to the appraiser
yeah,
and lined up
Yeah.
a conversation.
yeah,
The RFP has to be fully completed,
right,
because it will be part of the appraiser's
Right.
work to take decrements for anything that we say we want to mandate.
right.
But I feel very confident that we'll get this done this
And
year.
we will put it out there at like a minimum price of what we will accept?
Yeah, there'll be a floor price for sure.
Okay,
So when we do the appraisal, that
Yep.
becomes the floor price
okay,
legally.
yeah,
The town could still set a floor price that's above the appraised price.
Yeah, right.
Right? I doubt we'll do that.
yeah. It's just
It's
going
a
to be
shell of a
nice
building, right? with
to
a
get
decent roof.
somebody in that building, to be able to keep that building, because it's a nice building.
I get quite a bit of email traffic on this.
Yeah,
There
well,
are
that's good.
developers very interested in doing this.
That's excellent.
yep. Okay,
And that,
Fred?
this includes input from the historical commission?
we had
We did,
You became
Commission.
the conduit for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's part of the,
Yeah.
We did have, yeah,
We
at
had
the last
Rebecca.
meeting, we had
Rebecca.
Rebecca from the commission.
Right.
And also,
well, that is
she's
being
on the
passed on
library.
through you,
Yeah.
through the minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah,
Madam Chair,
yes,
per the minutes of the last meeting, you guys asked me to pull up some images of 2 schools in Auburn that were rehabbed,
yes.
and I have those for you.
Ah,
oh, goody.
okay,
So this is Mary D. Stone School.
uh-huh,
There's an old building in the front, and then they had an annex off the back. And then, oh, get the stupid map out of the way. And then it was updated to look like this, where they preserved the character of the building, the windows, and everything, but they built an annex off the back, probably to offset the cost. I'm not really sure, but there's a lot of historic preservation put into this, right? There's your differences. Windows look the same. They preserve the historical facade of the building.
and what is
Sure.
that used for now, Matt?
It's residential housing
Okay,
with some affordable component, 55 plus.
oh, okay. Thank you.
So we did these 2 at the same time, the Julia Bancroft School and the Mary D. Stone School. They were both put out to bid, and they were won by the same developer. I think each of the schools only sold for $50,000 apiece because of all the extensive work that they had to do on it. And but then again, this was 10 years ago, so this is a little while ago. So it preserved the historical facade of the building here as well, so you can see what the difference is. But
Not
the
much.
back of this school,
Looks nice.
there's a huge annex also, because there was an addition put on the school where they were able to put in a bunch of houses, a bunch of apartments. So this is a much larger facility in the back when you look at it.
Oh, wow.
So they preserved the historical facade of the original building, but they built a much larger complex to match the height of the front part. So obviously developers are going to need to, if they're thinking residential, they're going to need to offset their costs with building something else on the property. I don't know if that's consistent with anyone that's going to bid on this, but I just wanted to show you these 2 examples. They were able to preserve, they applied for a bunch of historical tax credits, and they were able to obtain those to get this building to continue to look the way it did.
Good, huh? Yeah, look good. Yeah. Thank you.
See, that's the
Sure thing.
thing, a lot of these old buildings aren't really worth that much, because it'd be cheaper just to start from scratch. So, the fact that you can get somebody in there to actually do it and keep something that we all like looking at and stuff, you can't,
Okay.
you just got to figure you're not going to get a whole lot of money for it up front.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not the goal here. The goal is
Right.
to keep the
The
building.
goal is to keep the building.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any questions, comments? We're good? Okay, status of the oil spill is still ongoing.
Still ongoing. Pat was here with his sniffers over the last week, doing his periodic testing. We're still talking to the contractor about the management of the air in the space. So in a way, it's a mixed blessing because we're pretty convinced that the timing on the fans is off. So we're getting all kinds of pressurization differences in the basement. And the day that we were down there was a very, very cold day. And the furnace was cycling almost constantly to maintain very high temp on the hot water heating system. And it seemed like the furnace was kicking on or running for a protracted period of time before the makeup air was called for. So the makeup air was coming after the furnace fired up. So that can mess with our
Sure.
findings with our tests down there. And
Yeah.
so we're still talking to Raynaud, that does a lot of our work in our furnace room for that.
Okay.
That's really all I've got for you there.
Questions, anybody? We're good. On to green communities. Did we get grants, or where are we?
So we haven't heard anything about our fall 2024 application. I just sent a follow-up to them. I still haven't heard anything back. But part of our capital project is the LED lighting at this building here. They started ordering supplies. They're going to start setting up a schedule with us to do the installation in this building. It's a capital project. It's not green community, but it is an LED lighting project, so it's somewhat related. But the LED middle school project is still on hold. We haven't heard anything from green communities yet.
Anybody? Okay. And the municipal fire alarm, still on hold?
It is, but it isn't. I think
Yeah.
we're looking at what town meeting has approved already for this. It's probably enough money to do the design, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The design?
And then it'll be another 10 years? I hope not.
No.
No.
No, it can't be.
I know.
The building has to have a fire alarm. So, as I mentioned previously, we have some complexities in this building. We have a crawl space above the ceiling on the second floor that you should be aware of. So this is a space that will need some alarm fixtures, not all, but some, probably heat and smokes. And then we have to blend with the police department, because they really are a separate, call it a condominium, for lack of a better word, within this building. So they're completely separate from us. They only have one doorway from the back hall that comes up the stairway out here in the front, next to the selectman's office and the copy room. That's the only point of access between our two spaces. So they need a separate alarm. And, but then it all has to be married together so that dispatch, which monitors this building, will have data from both fire systems. So it's kind of a pain in the neck design, and I'm going to go forward with coming up with the design selection process, which will come here,
Okay.
because that's a design project. So that's my intention right now, is to, it's not an RFP, it's called an RFQ, it's a request for qualifications. The designers will specify what the project is, but then we'll have designers. This is specialty work, right, so it's low voltage installation, still have to have the proper licenses. So, stay tuned, that's your spring and summer work.
Okay. Questions?
Not going to push it too hard because I want the design to still be valid after the water line is brought up Depot Street, which is this
That was
year's
my
project.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that all has to be done, the
in
sprinklers.
conjunction.
Sprinklers
Yeah.
I
design.
see you got a lot of materials already out there waiting.
Yeah, but that's under the ARPA funds.
Which we don't have on here anymore.
That was ARPA.
Right.
Yes, it's all done. Now we just,
Sometimes you get struck by lightning. I think getting this stuff on site
Yes.
Yeah.
will end up being a huge
Yes.
blessing.
Oh, yeah,
As anything we source from Canada
yeah, it's going up.
or steel from Canada is going to go up. So I think we bought it all at the right time and the right price. We're very
Yep.
fortunate
I just
that
got chills.
Bob did that.
Thinking how much it could cost.
Yep.
And just
I
so
was
people
looking-
at home understand, there is an existing fire alarm, it's just in bad need of updating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's functional, it fully functional on this floor where people are. And then upstairs, where the school had some of its spaces, is fully functional as well. It's just that it's not a modern code. You know, it's a bunch of stuff stuck together.
Yep.
Understood, I just don't
It's a
want anybody
crystal
watching to
radio
think that
that
we didn't have
connects
any.
to a
Yeah.
light bright that connects to,
Right.
But it works.
but it works, it passes.
I was looking at the stuff in the parking lot, and I said, I'm glad the police station is here. Because before I could take a walk.
Like gold.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'd have to be pretty strong to pick up that.
Oh, well, they come in, they steal whole
Oh, yeah,
trucks
they're
and
cranes.
everything.
Oh, yeah,
When we had the pit, they
Professional
broke in the
thieves.
garage, they were trying to steal the equipment.
yep. It's a whole skill set.
All right, so fire station upgrade.
I think we're the same place we were last month.
So funding-wise, do we know where we are with that?
I can get you an update on that. But as I said at the last meeting, I think I'm going to take those parts that can be dealt with discreetly and break them into those components.
Vacant buildings in town.
Still vacant. Right?
Yeah.
But I think working on the old grammar school is a big
Right.
step forward on that.
Any progress on that brown building near the cemetery?
Again, it
The
costs
LBH,
money.
the little brown house.
Brown house.
Yes. Then again,
it- it's gonna
At the
fall down on
Raccoon
its own.
Riviera.
Every time I drive by, which is maybe every 2 or 3 months, it
Yeah,
just
I
gets
think what we've
worse.
discussed here is that this will go to the capital committee, and to the extent that this committee has issued its opinion that it should be taken down,
Yeah.
the capital committee can take that into consideration. If you've been following the conversation at Finance Committee and the Select Board, you know that the capital budget this year will be constrained because of some provisions I'm going to make to safeguard the town's financial concerns around the health insurance fund. We got a lot of balls in the air on that. I don't think we'll ever need that money, but we need to be liquid. So a big portion of free cash this year will be held back, it won't be spent on capital until that issue is resolved, until the town has recovered its surplus from the claims trust fund. So what that means is, with a very constrained budget, perhaps the capital committee will say, well, we've only got 20 or 30
Yeah.
grand, but that's enough to take down the little brown house, and most years it wouldn't score high enough. But right now, it's going to score higher because it's affordable. It's kind of what I'm hoping. Not that anybody in this room is on the capital committee. Take that feedback to the capital committee
Well,
at its next meeting.
The other thing, too, is it's getting harder and harder to find places to bring these things to.
Yeah.
So the price is going up and up and up. I don't suppose we could find a way for the fire department to bring it down.
No, because it's all,
So, no, we did, that was a
Asbestos.
serious conversation,
You
and we
can't take
looked
the
into it.
asbestos out. You have to anyway.
yeah, you have, but that's. the-
okay,
Yeah.
no,
So the problem with that was
Yeah.
that because we would like be sawing into the roof and we would be making the asbestos friable, which is the opposite of what they want us to do.
yep. Okay, Library Board of Trustees.
Regarding the Little Brown House.
I'm sorry.
Regarding, we may have talked about this, and it may have already happened, but there is on the outbuilding there, there's a bunch of gravestones stacked in a pile. Is the Cemetery Commission aware?
Yes.
They have been notified, they do
From
know.
what I have heard, they have been using the Brown House, I think, to keep them till?
No, I
Oh, you checked
They're in the
it?
screen.
they're looking into buying a shed and getting rid of
Okay,
that
so it's,
Yeah,
gazebo or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's
they're
where the
aware and they're
stones
on
are
it,
held.
like-
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. I think Lee, I forget his last name, but Lee has been doing a lot of work on that.
okay.
Yeah,
Leo Lyons?
Lions. yes.
Lions,
Yeah. Yeah, he has. Okay, Library Board of Trustees are not here. I think last we knew they were continuing to raise money.
Yeah, I mean, this is their building,
Yeah,
so my latest go-around with the director is that he's looking to do smaller projects in order to continue to just take care of his building and raise money for the bigger project over time. That's what I think the status is on that.
okay. Upgrade to Douglas wastewater treatment plant.
So as soon as we put this on, it might be appropriate to take it off. I'll tell you why. Conversation here was on the Uxbridge side of the line, Mr. Berkowitz has suggested basically a waste to energy digester.
Okay.
I have spent more of my life talking about digesters than I really ever care to. We had a very serious proposal from an Italian company in Tiverton to use the industrial park for this purpose. And touching a blade of grass in that town starts a riot. So we went a long way towards having the conversation and then dropped it. And the townspeople, instead of having an environmentally intelligent way to deal with waste, kind of just rolled over and acquiesced to a doubling of the power plant from 100 megs to 200. They voted that and didn't vote that, whatever. It's the same kind of proposal here. Because the natural gas line is accessible from the Berkowitz property. This is a little bit different. They don't want to take gas off the line, they want to put gas into the line. That results from food and other biologic waste being digested by microorganisms that release natural gas. And they have to go through an extensive process of what you do with what results. There's all kinds of issues with managing PFAS, because PFAS is part of our dialogue now.
What's PFAS?
Forever chemicals, zero,
Okay. Okay,
non-stick Teflon,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff that we used to routinely use in our kitchen and stuff in our mouth, yeah, that stuff.
Not good.
But it's not good. It's an incredibly complex molecule. It's very difficult to destroy. You need 1,000 degrees centigrade to break the bonds.
Wow.
Notwithstanding that, there is a way to deal with removing that from the stream and then having a clean stream. You end up with compost, you end up with natural gas, and you end up with a whole bunch of effluent that is nasty. And the developer was originally talking to us about upgrading our wastewater treatment plant to handle directly their effluent. And in the meeting yesterday, I was like, yeah, no. So the stuff they'd be sending us would be dirtier than the stuff we send in a truck to Sinagro to be incinerated in
Oh, wow.
Woonsocket.
Yeah, yeah.
Buyer
So, yeah,
beware.
no, thank you.
Yeah.
But here's a bit of Douglas trivia. There's a very large wastewater treatment plant in this town. It's not currently operating. Does
Right.
anybody know where it is? Don't say it, because that's not fair.
Of course. I
Oh,
know
behind
where it is.
Schuster's.
Yeah,
I went up there for conservation one
Yeah.
time before they sold it.
yeah.
Yeah, so
It's huge.
that was a really big wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
It had at one point a discharge permit for 1.2 million gallons,
Right.
right? So that stuff was made to last. You know, if they ever talk about, God forbid, there is still one nuclear fallout shelter in this town. It's at that wastewater plant.
Where is it?
It's like 18 inches thick, the walls on this thing.
Yeah.
Where
it's
is
like a
it?
huge
Right behind
swimming
Schuster's
pool.
Mill.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And they drained it, right?
It's all drained out. Listen,
Yeah.
the vegetation has taken over. It does kind of look like Chernobyl, right? Nobody's been there in years to take
Yeah.
care of it. You walk into the office space and there's some guy's coffee cup is exactly where it was the day they moved out. It's kind of weird that way, but,
And it's made
It's
of
there.
cement, right?
no, it's concrete, stainless
Concrete.
steel, and really,
Yeah.
I never knew they had a...
durable
They
equipment.
had a,
And they had some type of an electric thing floating through it to keep it,
Yeah, so there's a
agitated.
diffuser and there's an equalizer and a whole bunch of stuff that's supersized, right?
Well, don't be telling everybody there's only so much room for it.
So the conversation now with the potential digester developer
Yeah.
is, it would be very expensive for them to build pretreatment on their site. But if they had most of the walls already standing,
yeah,
and they're just buying more modern equipment to put into it, it might be an extremely efficient use of that space. And now that works with our potential plans for development of the Pine site, because we're talking about electrical generation, right? On-site, and lots of interconnections to the facilities that are there. So there's still a conversation here, but you can take G off because we ain't doing it. There is no way on God's
Okay.
green earth
Right.
we would entertain taking what they're going to send us. So,
end of discussion.
end of discussion. That is over.
Would you like a motion?
No,
Okay. To remove it from our agenda, we have to make a motion. We do it all the other ones.
all right.
I make a motion to remove G, upgrade of Douglas wastewater treatment plant
Second.
from our agenda.
Motion made by Linda, seconded by Fred. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. All right. Thank you for all this input. Upcoming meetings, March 19th and April 16th. Please keep it on your agenda. If you, I do have a request. If you are not going to be able to make the meeting, actually, if you don't let me know, you're not excused, okay? And I don't want to have somebody not excused for 3 meetings, and then technically, I have to send you a letter.
Just a friendly reminder.
Yes, that's why I remind you, but then I don't get input, except Linda.
Oh, I'll be there.
She lets me know she will be there, but I need to know
If you're not.
so I can excuse you. All right? Minutes of January 15th.
I have quite a few. Let's see. Attendance, Lisa Brown, Vice Chair. It should be Linda.
Yes, I saw that. Thank you.
Close enough.
And let's see.
Yeah.
On number 1,
Okay, Bill.
on number 1, the very last sentence, Carol Gogolinski was opposed. Actually, because you were on Zoom,
Yeah.
it was a delayed.
Yeah.
So the person, the minute taker didn't realize that we all voted in favor.
Right.
So that should be,
That was I was opposed to, no. Or whatever, makes no difference.
Stormwater Management Committee,
Okay.
motion to accept the annual report. That's what it was, the annual report
Yep,
thing.
okay, go ahead.
And so that needs to be changed to motion passed, all in favor. Highway building project, the first sentence, Matt Wojcik went over it, O-V-E-R-T, it should be over.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you want to do this, but on number 3, we were talking about the old grammar school, and it says discussion, and then it says Rebecca with Historical Commission. I know that she didn't say her last name. Do we want to add it, LaValle, or just?
Yeah, why don't we?
Okay, so put LaValle. And then the next sentence, Mr. Wojcik feels the most important thing with the building is to not change and dimensions. It should be is not change the dimensions. And further down after the parentheses, it should be and the old grammar school. I think we need to keep mentioning that it's the old grammar school. I don't think we have a current grammar school. I think it's called the elementary school.
Could I just
Oh,
say
sure,
something
sure.
about not changing the dimensions? I think what he said was not changing the dimensions of the existing building, because when you say not changing the dimensions, that means they couldn't add on to it, right?
Right.
To be honest, I think my comment was not changing the dimensions of the windows
Right.
and doorway.
I think you're right. Yep, I think you were right.
Yeah.
So not just the whole exterior.
Right, yeah, because I think we're thinking they might have to be do some add-ons to the back of this.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way we can not do that.
Exactly, it's never going to go.
Of windows and
What I wanted
doorways.
to avoid was
Yeah.
actually some of the shortcuts we took here on the first floor of this building.
Yeah.
Where we cut the height of the windows.
Yeah.
It doesn't look too bad,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
kind of takes away from it.
Yeah,
So should that read to not change the dimensions of the exterior of the building, like size of doors and windows?
Now, I was being very specific,
said
I think,
doors
in my
and
comments. The dimensions of window and door openings.
right,
Of doorways of the
Yeah.
building.
right.
Okay,
Okay.
that should read the dimensions of the size of doors and windows. Okay.
You're good with that?
Exterior.
Good enough.
Exterior doors and
Right,
windows.
exterior doors.
Right. Whatever goes on inside is fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
You're okay with that? Matt Benoit?
got it. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And then further down, anything that mentions old grammar school, it should be capitalized, because up in the heading, it's capitalized on this number 3.
Okay.
And on side 2, we had talked quite a bit about that waste digester, and this pretty much left out a lot of information. Number 6, there was a conversation about an entity in Uxbridge that might be locating so-called digester with a big fermentation tank. And then that's it. It doesn't say anything about them buying the equipment or why we would even consider taking this. I don't know if the rest of the board wants to add to it.
Comments, board members?
I think we should ask the minute takers to simply go back to that part of the tape and
All
capture
right,
more of the
yeah.
detail. Because it's on your agenda because it affects a town
Correct.
facility, so it kind of needs to make the connection between the proposal and why it
Yeah.
matters to this board. Is it,
So not accept these minutes at this time.
yeah, I think you should hold off.
So Matt Benoit?
Make the edits, but also,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Just a couple sentences.
Do you want Linda to repeat them?
No, I didn't have any
Okay.
specific thing. It's just,
Oh,
it was
just go back to
very
the
vague.
minutes. Okay, yep.
Didn't
And then
even
bring
mention
them,
our plan.
Bring them up at the next meeting.
All set, Matt?
Yeah,
Right.
so I'm asking Stephanie for clarity about the reason for putting this onto the agenda.
Correct.
All the reasons, the
And what was
discussion.
discussed?
Revisit the discussion that was,
Just need a little bit more detail from what
Right.
was said at the meeting
yeah,
to justify why it was on the agenda at all,
Yeah.
or to demonstrate why it was on the agenda at all. We had a long conversation about
yeah.
improvements to an existing town facility, which is the charge of this committee.
So we'll
Okay,
pass
we'll-
on that.
We'll pass on the minutes
Okay.
until we get a update. Revisit. Anybody else have anything? All right. If not, look for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at, I can't see, that was at 11:30?
11:31.
11:31. I have a motion by Linda,
Second.
second by Bob. Any discussion? Anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you, everyone.